Let's go ahead and move on, guys, to B4, which is a potentially also momentous situation, not just for Republicans, but for all of us in American politics. Put this up on the screen from Mediaite. So apparently Trump is considering getting back on Twitter, basically planning on getting back on Twitter. I like the way Mediaite frames this. He's saving his return to Twitter for a special occasion like another indictment. Yay! The Axios had the original report here, Emily, and they basically said he had actually considered getting back on after the original indictment, but then decided to wait. I mean, this is complicated for him financially because obviously he has a piece of Truth Social. He also, I think, has some agreements, exclusivity agreements with them that he has to, doesn't have to, but is potentially advantaged by letting those exclusivity agreements run out. But it looks like at some point in this election cycle, we are going to get Donald Trump's tweets back in all of our lives.
And, you know, it's funny, but it is also kind of a game changer, I think, and his team seems to be noticing this according to the Axios report, in that I think this goes to the argument that Twitter truly is a monopoly and has a wildly unfair market share and needs to be regulated differently, because as they're noticing, you really need to be on Twitter to specifically have the influence that you might think you could get from Truth Social.
Yeah.
But Truth Social is an echo chamber, and that's not why anybody uses these social media platforms. They end up getting used that way, and in a way that creates this like dopamine addiction in some cases. But honestly, you can't get your message out if everyone isn't on the same platform, and that's exactly what's happened to Trump with Truth Social. He, like, even being the former president, basically posts into the void, and every once in a while something breaks through and it will get covered in the media as basically an official statement of the former president, funny as that is, but it doesn't really get the pickup that it used to in the press. And I think everything you need to know about Twitter essentially having an unfair market share is in this report about whether Donald Trump is coming back.
I mean, I think social media platforms are basically natural monopolies.
Yes,
you know, and exactly. I think we need to think of them in that regard. But yeah, with Trump, elite journalists are not on Truth Social. So it's just not in your face every day the way it was when he was on Twitter. And a key source of the Donald Trump power is making the media respond to them, making them freak out about whatever he's saying, being able to drive the narrative, drive the conversation, push the set of issues that he wants. I mean, he is the master. I've never seen anyone better at doing that. And by putting himself in what is effectively like a social media ghetto over on Truth Social, he has intentionally undercut his ability to do that. He's still obviously a very powerful force, especially as he's getting, you know, indicted and probably going to face more indictments. He's going to be central to news coverage, whether he's on Twitter or not. But it has sort of eaten away at his power to drive the narrative. One thing I will say, though, Emily, is I think Twitter was so much better when they really did have the character limits. And I think Trump is such a better poster.
A poet is
when he's forced to constrain himself to brevity on Twitter. Because what he is posting on Truth Social is just like, it's so long and tedious and repetitive. I mean, I think that is also a small part of why it's not getting picked up as much, is because he just like, the format of the short tweet back when that was still in force, is actually a better format for him. He's a better poster in that genre.
I would read like a New Republic essay from you on this.
Like, that was the extent of my thoughts. That's all I got.
There's a great book by Rob Long called Bigley where he analyzes Trump tweets as essentially as poetry.
Yes.
And like actually breaks them down. It's really funny. But he should update that actually now that Trump has been doing these really long Truth Social posts, because I think it's a great, I have a creative writing minor. This is like the one time it's ever going to be useful.
Oh, that's interesting.
The analysis of like contemporary poetry where there's no boundaries, that if you have restrictions and constraints on your art, you're going to produce something better. This is wildly unuseful in the context of our conversation right now, but I thought I would. Mom, this is for you. I'm using my degree and getting some money's worth here.
You got the quintessential like lib degree. That's amazing. What was your major?
Political science. Even worse. Put those two things together.
No, I mean, actually, though, like, you do write. You're a writer.
Yeah.
And having, so, like, I think Taibbi has this very, like, literary sensibility when he writes. Even when I, like, disagree with him, I always love reading his writing because it's so beautiful. So it has a use.
Yeah,
Put it to
it's,
good
it's
use.
a dying art form.
Hey guys, if you like that video, go to breakingpoints.com, become a premium subscriber, and help us build the best independent media organization on the planet.
That's right. We're subscriber funded. We're building something new. We want to replace these failing mainstream media organizations.
So again, to subscribe, it's breakingpoints.com.